Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Ask the Expert, a daily series from 8:30 till 9 to help small businesses. Feel free to ask any questions in the comments and use the hashtag QBATE on Twitter. And if you need any more advice, join the official Intuit SMB community group on Facebook. There are accountants and business experts on hand 24/7, and during the live session, we'll be running a poll. So yeah, do engage and I'll reveal the results at the end. So a little bit about me. So my name is Jenni Dunman. I am a multi-award winning CEO of Daisy First Aid. I'm also an angel investor and global mindset trainer. So my background is in the police. I always thought I'd be doing my full 30 years service. I joined the Metropolitan Police at the age of 21. I was a pretty streetwise kid, so I knew that a repetitive office job was not going to be good for me. And I've always been a helper, always wanted to just do good, I guess, and just catch the bad guys, honestly. So I did my 14 years working my way up to Detective Sergeant, worked on units like the Serious Sexual Offences Unit, Violent Crime Units, all in central London. So I guess I'm very used to dealing with all types of people in all types of circumstances. Extreme circumstances, extremely distressed people, extremely angry people, upset, angry. So I guess every type of emotion, which is really good grounding when you're dealing with business and people in the outside world as well. And I'm also used to dealing with a lot of first aid, from the drunk and incapable to shootings, stabbings, and everything in between. And I love that aspect. I love doing the first aid and genuinely helping people. That side of the job I wasn't frightened of. I don't mind a bit of blood and gore. I really enjoyed it. I was also an officer at Edgware Road during the London bombings. And I suppose for me, it highlighted the real need for more people to have basic first aid training. But it wasn't being in the police that made me go into first aid business. It was actually while I was pregnant with baby number 3. I was still in the police, and that's where I came up with my first business idea. So I was in a coffee shop with a friend. We had our toddlers sitting in high chairs, having a chat, and her daughter choked on a cookie. And Mum didn't know what to do. So I stepped in, and I've had police training, first aid training every year. And I just used a really simple first aid technique, and I removed the blockage, and her baby was absolutely fine. But what I did is I went home that night and I said to my husband, why don't people know this? This is basic stuff, basic life-saving stuff. And we spend so much money on our children, on wonderful classes and products, but actually the real basics, how to save a life if they're choking or if they stop breathing or if they have a seizure, we just don't know it. So I went home and I did some research. And there was no first aid classes for parents. There were lots of corporate first aid classes for childcare professionals, but nothing specifically. So I decided that that's exactly what I was going to do. So I created just a really simple 2-hour class. It was not scary. There was no goriness, no gory pictures. I didn't want to frighten parents. I just wanted to give them knowledge. I wanted to give them confidence, and cover things like choking, recovery positions, head injuries, febrile seizures, meningitis, anaphylaxis, stuff like that, but just condense it into just 2 hours. Your baby could come with you, and it would just be a cost-effective way of learning those basic skills. So I ran my first class in a local pavilion in my local area. I invited my friends along with their babies because there was not enough bums on seats just to make it look busy. And I was super nervous. I was really nervous. It was something completely outside my comfort zone. I then went on to run classes in local homes. And at that time, my son was 7 weeks old. I had a 3-year-old, had a 4-year-old at home. And what I did is I just managed to fit the 2-hour classes around my children. So kind of what followed was a bit of a whirlwind, in that I was just inundated with inquiries from not just my local area, but all of London, Surrey, Kent. And all I had was my self-made Vistaprint website that I'd done by myself and a Facebook page. I had nothing else, had no marketing budget, had no money. The whole business was set up on just £500. But I was inundated more than I could actually manage. So I think then I realised that I had a niche product and that it was scalable. So the following year, I knew nothing about business, absolutely nothing. Certainly nothing about franchise. So I took a year to learn. I learned everything that I needed to know. So the following year, which was 2014, I took the decision to franchise the business. And yeah, we now cover like 766, I think, areas across the country. We train over 100,000 parents and carers. We have 97 franchisees and more freelance trainers. And it's just gone from strength to strength. And I followed that up with a Daisy merchandise business, a first aid schools team, which is our newest. And we work with some of the biggest baby brands now in the world. We have a huge clientele of celebrity parents. And yeah, life was up until March, absolutely perfect. But of course, COVID hit. It was definitely one where I had to take a moment, think on my feet. It could have been a total game changer for us because we rely on face-to-face classes. That's what we do. But within 48 hours, I'd created and pivoted and provided an online course package for my franchisees to sell onto their customers. We also pivoted into providing Zoom classes. Parents weren't really used to Zoom before March, and we didn't really ever think about it before. We didn't think it would be something that would ever work, but times have changed, and Zoom and other different packages become the norm, and they were super popular. And we couldn't quite believe how popular the Zoom classes suddenly became. We were able to survive. I then collaborated with loads of companies during COVID. I basically put myself out there on Instagram lives, Facebook lives, any baby business that would have me, to just make sure that our brand was visible, that we weren't forgotten, and that we were still out there. And we ended up just creating 3 new products, which we would never have thought of creating had it not been for COVID. And these 3 products we can now carry through and continue to use, even though we're creeping back into face-to-face classes. And what also happened during COVID is I found it really fascinating how people were reacting to it. Some people completely fell to pieces, like the world was ending. Other people just assumed that their business would fail. Some just completely buried their heads. And others just sat up straight and they were like, I'm ready to fight. I'm going to fight for my business. But what it did do is it kind of highlighted the need for training, just to help people recover, help people get their head straight. And I've studied mindset, law of attraction, psychology, the universe, NLP and hypnotherapy for like the last 20 years. Just for myself. I am a massive book geek. I love to absorb information, and I use those techniques to completely change my own life. So I decided during COVID that I would share some of those techniques with my team via Zoom, and the results were just mind-blowing. Some of the messages I got were just so unbelievable. So I shared this info with a franchise membership group that I'm on, and I was flooded with inquiries from other franchisors saying, please can you come and do the same for my team? So I did. So I just ran loads of Zoom sessions for loads of different companies, all for free, just to do something to try and help. And yeah, and then I was just flooded with inquiries. So I was invited to some other events, and I kind of organically have created this other new business, which was completely unexpected. And I'm now getting inquiries from all over the world to run these mindset, success mindset, transformational courses, all from COVID. So I think it's just so funny sometimes that something that can seem like an absolute terrible tragedy, and absolutely COVID has been that, but sometimes you can learn some really important lessons, and some great things can come out of situations that you think are, bad. So that's my story, and I hope that you've got some questions for me to answer. I'm just going to have a look and see if we have some stuff coming through. So yes, I have. So I've got Yvonne from Twitter via DM. I'm hoping you can help. With so many options available, how do I choose the correct franchise opportunity? So Yvonne, number one, great that you're actually looking at franchising and going in as a franchisee. It's a really great way of going into a business that is already really well established. The success rates of franchises are much, much higher than if you start off by yourself, because we've already done all the stuff. We've already made all the mistakes. We've already tested the model, so we know it works. I would say for you is to actually look at what you love doing the most, because if you love what you do, it doesn't even feel like work. So I really try to go into your own self and think about the things that you love doing the most. And also, when you're looking at franchises, speak to other franchisees and their experiences, speak to the franchisor, Google them, research them, do all your research, and make sure that it's a fit, not just for you, you're a fit for them, and that you'll work perfectly together. But most of all, just enjoy it. Okay. Sally from Instagram DM. Hello, we were also affected by the lockdown, especially with our team's mood dipping. What methods did you use to boost morale on your team during challenging times? Yeah, so this was the thing that came up in so many businesses, and completely understandable, especially in businesses where you just couldn't work. So we did a lot of mindset training in that we spoke a lot about the way that you talk to yourself and the words that you use, because a lot of it was, oh, this is awful, this is terrible, so many people are dying. And a lot of the words that people were using were really negative. And actually what your brain does when you say negative things is it believes you. So if it's, for example, I feel really ill, your body will naturally respond to that and you will feel ill. So it was a lot about changing the way you speak about yourself, and also the way you speak in general, and actually turning things into a positive rather than always concentrating on the negative. And sometimes that little switch can actually lift your mood, change your mindset in an instant, just using the words. So I hope that's a little bit of a tip, but it's amazing the results you can come up with. But there are, loads of different techniques. Henrietta from Facebook Messenger. Hi Jenny, great to see you here. In your opinion, what would you say makes a successful franchisee? I'm hoping to go into franchising in the food industry. I mean, a franchisee, you already got the model there, you've already got everything there ready for you to follow. So follow the guidance of your franchisor, follow the advice that they give you, but also be very mindful that this is your business and it's up to you to work really hard to grow your business, to get yourself out there. And sometimes that might mean just stepping out of your comfort zone a little bit and doing things that you haven't done before, or just being brave. But to be a successful business person, you do need to be brave, and you need to do more than the average person does. When you're employed, you're very much just swept along into your normal daily routine. But as a business owner, you need to go over and above what the normal person does. And that can be scary sometimes. But yeah, just getting yourself out there and just taking ownership of your own business as well. Who else? So Connor from Twitter DM. Good morning. What keeps you motivated day to day when you're working with Daisy First Aid? Great question. So I work on my mindset every day. And for me, I get up really early before my children. I get up before my husband goes to work. I walk the dog on my own with peace and quiet. I listen a lot to motivational audiobooks. And for me, that's my way of self-motivating myself, getting myself ready for the day. By the time I get back into my house, I am focused and ready to go. So that's what works for me. But if I didn't have that time, if it was just a case of getting up sleepily and getting into work, I feel like I wouldn't be quite as productive. Okay. Hello, Jenny. Hilla from Instagram DM. Hello, Jenny. We are wondering, what are the franchise costs involved for the franchisees? It completely depends on what industry you go into. So some franchisees, I think sometimes people think of the franchise industry as this huge one with McDonald's and all the really great big brands, and the costings for that are obviously huge. But actually there are so many much more affordable, smaller franchises where you get a much more personal approach. I deal with my franchisees very, very closely. We have a very close-knit, almost family-like network, and the fees to join our franchise is obviously significantly less than the bigger, more corporate chains. So they vary hugely. Esther from Facebook Messenger. Was going from the police force to working for yourself a big decision for you? Do you have any advice for taking the step from a comfortable full-time job to self-employment? Yeah, it was a massive, massive decision for me. I joined the police to do 30 years service. That was my full intention. It had a great pension. I enjoyed what I did. But for me personally, I had 3 children, or 2 and 1 on the way, and working shift patterns wasn't conducive to that flexible life I wanted. Now, I think the big decision comes when you already have mortgages and bills to pay. So stepping out into that self-employment world where you don't have that guaranteed income is really tricky. So I would say, if you're going to start a business, start your business small whilst you're still working, and try and juggle them both until you're in a position to do that shift. Because the amount of pressure that you would put on yourself if you were just to suddenly quit your job, start a brand new business, because starting a new business is absolutely hard work and an awful lot, would be added pressure that you perhaps don't need. So I would always suggest, and I suggest this with some of my own franchisees as well, if they have a job, quite often they will reduce their hours into their current job until they build their Daisy franchise enough so that they know that they've got enough income to just make that transition across. So I feel like that's always quite a sensible approach to doing it. So I hope that helps. Clara from Instagram DM. Hi there, it's been really nice to hear your story so far, Jenny. Thank you. Can franchisees sell their business, or are you blinded by some kind of contract? So I can only speak for my personal franchise business, but I think that most franchise businesses work in the same way, that you can purchase your franchise business, you can build it up, and a lot of companies do this. You'll build your company up, and then for whatever reason, if you decide to move along or try something new, or that you've built this business up so that it's really successful, then you have the option then to sell the business on. And some people do that. Some people buy a franchise, they grow it to something great, and then they sell it for a profit. And that's a really great way of doing business. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and it's a good way of doing it. But yeah, alternatively, if you had a franchise business and your circumstances changed and you wanted to do something different, then you'd have the option to sell the business. We have like 2 clauses in our franchise where you can sell the business, or if something happened in your life and you just needed out, then we would give you the option just to give notice as well. So we give 2 options, because really we don't want people to feel that they're tied into something. And also we don't want people to lose money. We want this to be a really good investment. We want them to earn a profit, but we also want them to have a business at the end of it that they could perhaps even pass on to their family, or they could sell on. So yeah, both options. Renee from Instagram DM. Good morning. How do you see Daisy First Aid developing? Is the goal to get even more franchisees, or do you have other aims in mind? For me personally, we've got to a lovely point where we have a really great team. We've got a really great team of franchisees. Yes, it would be lovely to grow it. We do cover most of the country now, but we have pockets that we would love to fill. But for us to develop what we've decided to do, that we're going to expand into first aid in schools. So we actually launched that just before COVID, because I've got a real passion for teaching children basic first aid. I think it's so important that children learn at a really young age so that they're not frightened of doing first aid. So we expanded into providing our classes within schools. So I think that is my vision for Daisy First Aid, to continue what we're doing, to train more childcare professionals, but also to expand into teaching more children as well. Olivia from Twitter. Good morning, Jenny. Did you learn any skills or values in the police that you brought across to your business? Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people, particularly police officers that I know, feel like they don't have transferable skills because you learn everything in the job. But for me, it's dealing with people, because you are dealing with people at every emotion. So to deal with customers, to deal with franchisees, to deal with other businesses, to deal with contracts and other professionals, you're able to have discussions with people at every level. So regardless of their backgrounds, regardless of their education, you're able just to have conversations. And I think that's really good. And when things happen, like COVID, rather than sort of burying my head in the sand, I think the police taught me to breathe and actually just put a practical head on, how can I actually overcome this? What's the solution? Rather than going, oh my God. So I think, yeah, people skills for sure, and dealing with situations. Dior from Twitter, DM. When looking for a franchise, or would I need to prepare a franchise business plan, or will this be given to me? It completely depends. You might go to a franchise and they might have everything ready for you. It really depends on if you're going to be going to the bank in order to seek a business loan, in which case they may well want you to have a business plan. But a franchise will always help you with anything that you need in order to get that. But yeah, it completely depends on what franchise. We actually don't have business plans, but if somebody does need assistance, then we're always happy to help. But we have a whole package that we could send out to people. Yeah, I don't think you can really create a franchise plan until you know exactly what franchise you're going to be purchasing and look into it from that point of view. And Lynn from Facebook Messenger, do you read any books or listen to any podcasts that you can recommend for inspiration in business? Oh my God, Lynn, I've read hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books. I probably read two books a week, I think, either audio books or physical books. I'm never far away from my Kindle. I could create a list of different motivational books. Perhaps if you follow me on Instagram, Jenni Dunman, and DM me, I can send you a list, because off the top of my head, there's just, I can't think, but I've got a whole list of books I can happily share with you. But yes, I think it gets me going in the morning, definitely. Poppy from Twitter DM, what is your team structured like? Do you have a CFO or do you use an accountant? Yeah, so our team structure, I have myself as a CEO, we have 3 members of head office team, we use PR company, we have an accountant, we have IT support. So I couldn't live without my accountant. He is absolutely amazing. And what was lovely about my accountant is that I was able to go to him in the very beginning and be like, I know nothing. You're going to have to speak to me like from the very basic level. And that's exactly what he did. And so we've grown together. So it's really important to have a really good relationship with your accountant, I think. Shauna. Hi, Jenni. Thanks for all the info so far. What would you say the main advantages for franchising is? Hi, Shauna. For franchising, I think the most important thing is you could go out and do probably whatever it is that franchise is doing by yourself. And many people think, well, why don't I just go and do that? The massive benefit of being a franchise is, number one, we've done it all. So we've tested the process. We know that this business works. We know it's profitable. We know all the ins and outs. We know all the mistakes. We know all how things will improve and grow. We'll also teach you how to grow your business. We'll be that support backbone. You'll also have a whole team of other franchisees that you can draw advice from. And also, even just the simple things like your website will be done for you, your PR, your advertising, so many of the little bits, the paperwork. There's a whole host of stuff is like a big package just handed to you, rather than you having to spend all of that time creating it, doing it yourself. And when things go wrong, or your IT doesn't work, or something you need advice on, there's someone there for you. Whereas when you're on your own, it can be quite lonely, and you don't have that support network behind you. So there are lots of massive benefits for going into franchising, for sure. Danielle from Facebook Messenger. Hi, Jenni. Do you think you will continue the online courses even after allowed to do business face-to-face? In March, if you'd have asked me that question, I would have said no. But actually, we've been able to reach people all over the world now with these online classes, and it was something completely unexpected. So although we will always maintain face-to-face as our core business, we will always keep the option of the online courses now, which is something new and unexpected, but been really, really successful. So yes, we will. Okay, so I think we're at the end of the questions. So this is the poll results. The poll results are in. So what we asked you was, have you thought of franchising your business? This is interesting. So 50% of you said you have thought about franchising your business, and 50% of you said no. And that surprises me, actually, because generally when I speak to people about franchising as a whole, people automatically assume the bigger, more corporate companies. And sometimes they don't realise that the smaller companies are franchises. So I was expecting more people to say no, they'd never thought of it. But the fact that 50% have said yes really pleases me, because the franchise industry is a very close-knit, very friendly, very supportive industry. And we welcome more and more people that franchise their business. It's a really, really great way to do business. So I'm pleased with that result, really pleased. So that's it, we're done. Thank you so much for all your questions. If you've got any further questions, please get in touch by QuickBooks Support team on Facebook, or on myself, info@jennidunman.com. So that's it. Coming up on Ask the Expert tomorrow is the fabulous Cole Reader, who is a serial entrepreneur, chairman of the business advisory firm D&T, author of Boss It, great book, the Startup Coach, and the Franchising Handbook. Tune in tomorrow and get advice on how to grow your business. And a reminder, if you need any more advice, join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. Accountants and business experts are on hand 24/7. So thank you all for tuning in this morning, and have a wonderful day.